Alright everyone, here's the video review for Transformers Legacy Laser Optimus Prime. He's a leader class, or at least comes in a leader class box, obviously. The robot itself is not full leader class bulk because it does include, the price does include this trailer here, which you can tow behind him. He can spinny spin, he's got room to twist and shout and all that good stuff. I've got the weapons separated a little bit right now in that there's a trailer. And the trailer, if you have the original G2 version, like this feels a little less enhanced. It definitely feels like a downgrade because it's just a hollow, very lightweight, cheap kind of trailer. It works, it does its job, but it doesn't have all the spring-loaded fun stuff that the original did. Now, like I said, I got the sword stored under the vehicle, just because this way, if you have, even if you're not carrying the trailer around, you still got a full Optimus Prime, and he does have at least one of his weapons. He comes with a sword and an axe. The axe is in the trailer. You can store both of them on either the vehicle itself or in the trailer, and just real quick, we'll pop this open here. You can see the axe just stores right in here, and like I said, the sword can also store. It uses these little tabs here on the crossguard. They go into these little slots in the trailer, and you can do either one of these on either side. Both sides have the little slots for the axe to peg into, and the slots up here, they're hiding behind the axe for the sword to put in. You can put them on either side. The axe is kind of expanded pizza or nugget shaped. It actually smells a little bit like sweet and sour sauce, which is a nice little Easter egg if you're curious. But yeah, so the axe folds out, and when it's folded in half, like this, it's got two tabs that can peg into either these two slots or these two slots in the trailer and store in there if you wish. Plug in there. There we go. So you can close that up, snap that down, and he can go like that. And again, pull the trailer. You can also store them, like I said, the sword we already saw underneath the cab. So you can always have, Prime's always got one weapon on him. You can also store the axe. There's a couple like peg slots here in the leg that these pegs will reach. So you can peg this on back here. The problem with that is when you do that, it blocks the trailer peg from sitting properly. You can kind of tow it, but you can see it raises it up a little bit. You can't use the trailer with the truck if you have the axe plugged in there. But again, if you want to use the trailer, you just put the axe in the trailer and everything's fine. It does. You will notice it does have. You can leave these folded down, but there's a tab here that the arms peg onto that actually gets used because he's got the same. There's some remolds, but it's the same basic Prime legs that we've been dealing with since the beginning of, all the way back to Earthrise, or actually War for Cyber or Siege, even. But I guess these are the Earthrise legs that they remolded, but with the flaps that fold down. So he ends up with two peg holes. Although this is the one you'll use for the trailer. Like I said, you can leave these closed. It just makes this slightly less secure, and that these little tabs that you'll see in a minute don't peg into the arms clearly. But yeah, so that's the ways you can store the weapons. He also has a little turret gun plugged in here to the top of the trailer itself, the tanker bit. On the tanker itself, you just lift this up, like we saw before, open this up, fold that down, and then this whole half assembly right here folds in half. You can fold that turret back. This piece lifts up. It's on a ball joint and rotates around here. Pop that back into place. Come on. Let's see. And then this is just, again, you can pull this off. This just pegs into the bottom here and lets it rotate. You can fold that down and then flip out this little claw thing. Little assembly bay or repair bay. So doesn't shoot any discs. Not a whole lot of action there, but you know, imagination. It can repair things. It's got a little ramp. This can rotate and fire. If you just want the turret itself, once it's flipped up, it can rotate as well. It also comes out. He can hold this as a hand weapon, which we'll show off when we get to robot mode. But that's essentially the trailer. It's a little kind of standalone base with, like I said, less weapon functionality than the original had. But again, it's to be expected with toys nowadays. I'm not complaining. That's the reality of it. The truck itself, it rolls pretty well. It's a nice little semi-tractor truck. Go ahead and pop that sword off before we start transforming him. like I said, it's got a nice flame design. It rolls. It's a little skinnier proportionally to its length than the original was, if I recall correctly. But yeah, it's not bad. I do feel like this. It has a little bit more posability in robot mode. It has a lot more steps to essentially do the same thing that the original did, which, like I said, does give it a little bit more functionality, but makes it a little bit more fiddly on top of everything else. But anyway, to turn them into a robot, we'll go ahead and collapse these tanks. The instructions have that as a later step, but just go ahead and collapse those, no big whoop. These panels right here lift up, and this is one of the areas where I'm a little concerned because this kind of, the way the legs come up, this can sometimes, when I opened this, originally was not pegged in all the way and kind of sits at an angle. There's like the legs, especially if you don't have these pegged in, you lift the arms up and fold these down. If you don't, so there's those closed. But if you don't have those pegged in, the legs have a lot more movement, which puts a lot more stress on this really, really tiny tab. It's not thick in any dimension here on the front of the cab. There's just this little tiny tab right here that goes into this slot. So if you don't have these tabs flipped forward, it gives you a lot more movement. And like, I haven't had any issues. I'm not seeing any stress points because when you fold this all up, the legs lock in place pretty well. And again, when you have this all locked in with these tabs, it's pretty secure. But these are some really, really tiny tabs, and I worry about those eventually breaking just over the course of just having the toy. They're very small. No issues yet, though, so I can't confirm that that's a failure point. It just ekes me out a little bit. Also, there's a lot of joints on here that are friction fitted. So some of these, like, there's a pin right through there, but the lower half of his torso is friction fitted and it pops off. So just be aware of that. Anyway, that's the quirk for this part. We're going to go ahead and up that, lift that up. You can bring the legs kind of down like this and then out like that. Not too far out, we just unpegged that up there. But bring those out and go ahead and split the legs, open up the feet. And again, the legs, different detailing here, but the basic transformation is the same as and some of the parts are even the same. There's some remolding here with this vent, but there's a lot of the same parts even as all the Voyager primes we've gotten in the last like 4 years. But anyway, bring that up. Rotate the waist around like that. You can go ahead and bring it down like that. You can go ahead and pop this open. Just straight up like that. And then up here, let me see if I can raise this up just a smidge. I pop the front of the truck apart, bring those out to the side. There's a hinge here and a hinge here, and you can get them a little further out by bringing that hinge down a little bit. And here you can see his abdomen, and it doesn't fold forward through. You push that abdomen down, and you can see his chest start to come into play here, and then keep pushing that through and out. And you can see this is friction fit, and I don't know if this is a flaw or just how it is on mine, but these red tabs that are the little connectors for where the posts on this piece friction fit in are they angle out a little bit, and that may see like that. And I don't know if that's a flaw, if something has broken on my copy, or not broken, but just mismolded, and maybe I can heat that up and tighten that joint, or if that's just how they are on all of them. So if you've got this guy and they're like that, let me know. But then if it pops off, you just pop it back into place. Bring that down, bring this whole thing around like that and snap it into place. Don't snap it down yet. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in a very specific order here, and there's a couple places where the instructions aren't entirely clear what that order is. So you've got these pieces which were on the side of the cab that have the little tab on them that look like they should be hip skirts, but they're not. They're going to fold up into the torso. But you can't just fold. You can see there's a slot here that this tab's going to tab into, but you can't just fold them up into there because the arm's got to come around. You can't fold the arms all the way around before you put these up, but you do have to open them up about halfway. So pull the arms out like this, and make sure you've got once this path is clear, because you can see this piece flips up and kind of blocks it. Once that's flat, and same over on this side, then you can kind of tilt this whole assembly back just a smidge, lift this up, and fold it again into the torso, and then tab it in like that, and same on the other side. But you got to get everything around each other just right, and then you can tab all that together. And once those are tabbed in, then you can finish folding the arms and the shoulders all the way around and snapping them in. Now you notice the arms are offset, and at first I thought this was, oh no, the friction pegs are coming loose again. But they actually are offset. They will have a tendency sometimes as you rotate the arm around, you can see it still doesn't quite match up. You may have to push it in a little bit once you've rotated it because it's not 100% secure. But when you first rotate them around and it looks like it's way off, this hasn't popped out. It's intentionally offset for the way it folds up there. But bring those around, and once that's done, then you can go ahead and fold the torso all the way down and lock it into place. And then the shoulders, use that double hinge and then just snap them down like that. And then this little panel right here snaps down like that. Open up the forearm, and then he's got his ball joint, his wrists are ball joints. And just flip the hand out and then close that cover again. And it's actually, as worried as I was about this, it's actually pretty easy to get those hands moving, even with all the plastic around it. It does kind of leave his, if you look straight through, you can kind of see the hollowness in his arm, but the minute you start looking at it from anything other than straight through that gap, it looks fine. And then the head flips up from behind and snaps into place, and then there's a little panel here that flips up that, again, can be a little difficult to get started. But flip that up into this like this, and then that's going to, when you fold this whole thing back on, peg it onto the back, that fills in. You can see his kind of thrusters back here on his backpack. So he is hollow, but he didn't look hollow. He also has a lot of these octagonal ports or hexagonal ports all over for attaching weapons too, because there's a lot of energon weapons and things that, or any fossilizers, whatever you want to plug into, he's got ports for it. But there he is in robot mode. And again, you can give him the axe and plug it in. Now the sword can only go in his hand, can only initially go into his hand one way. Like the axe can go in either hand, no issues. The sword, there's the side with the two pegs that peg it into the vehicle mode that stick out, but the opposite side of the handle, and it actually looks like a very distinct tab. It doesn't look like it's mold flash or anything. That looks like it's specifically there for a reason. But if you take that, you can't just shove it into his hand because it gets in the way. So you got to make sure that that's facing out, or facing into this place where there's a gap in his hand, which means you can't really plug this into, like if you just had a solid, like Megatron couldn't hold it with his solid hands, or you'd have to have an opening hand or an open hand like this where you can slide that tab through. But you can slide it through, which I don't think looks good because it's like kind of hollow on this side as well as having these tabs sticking out. But if you want those to hit, once it's through, you can rotate that around to have the fully molded side facing out and having those tabs facing in. And that actually holds it in his hand a lot more securely because that tab's not going to let it slide out. So yeah, there's that. You can also take this weapon and his axe. If you want to be really silly about it, you can put the sword here, plug it into the top of the axe like that. And again, you got to make sure that tab's facing out to make this thing. What is it? Fancier sword, do you want to call it that? But yeah, so you can have that as well. He also has armament-wise, you can flip up his shoulders. The box art makes it look like, I thought maybe these would be little removable pegs that you could pop out to make it look like he shot missiles, but again, that would be a choking hazard. It is one solid chunk of molded plastic in there on each shoulder. So yeah, no small choking hazard pieces, unfortunately, despite the promises of the box art. But you can flip up some little missile launchers there. And like I said earlier, if you want him to actually have a laser gun, it's not exactly his original two-pronged gun. And Grimlock's, like, any 5mm gun will fit in his hand. I considered giving Leader Grimlock's double-barreled gun because it's kind of similar in shape to the blaster that G2 Prime had, but it's way too big. But if you want to give him a little blaster, you can give him, he can hold the top of the tanker. And I mean, I guess it doesn't look any sillier than whatever this is. Maybe a little, I don't know. We can just put it back on the platform itself. His head is surprisingly difficult to move. I'm pretty sure it's just a swivel. Although, no, he just tilted a little bit, so maybe it is a ball joint, but between the neck and the bottom of his head, it doesn't have a whole lot of range. Also, I'm fairly certain, like, his eyes look like they're the same transparent blue, And I feel like the back of his head, I feel like the back of the headpiece is that same transparent plastic painted, because it really, his eyes are so dark and lifeless, and they're clearly, if you get a light on them, they're clearly molded of transparent plastic. I feel like that whole back piece, back half of this was supposed to be light piped, and they just painted over it. I may take a very fine paintbrush and try to paint his eyes to look a little bit more vibrant, because they just look kind of cold and dead, and like he's just soulless. Which of course, makes sense when we're getting the Scourge repaint later on, and I think it's a Walmart exclusive. Sure, fine, but for Optimus, I feel like he should look a little more, alive. Although canonically, I guess that dead is just as well. Anyway, but yeah, so he's got the shoulder pads don't move, but like themselves. But the arm underneath it has a good range of motion. This little piece flaps up so you can get, I don't know why you need to bring his arm all this way up, but if you want to, that shoulder pad, this front little piece will move out of the way. But you can hear that ratchet. It's not a super strong ratchet, but it definitely, you can tell where each detent is. But ratcheting forward and back, and then a swivel on the sides. He's got that bicep swivel, which again, be careful when you're doing it, because it does tend to slip out just a little bit when you're rotating it. Regular hinge elbows to right about 90 degrees, and his wrists do swivel because of that ball joint. Like, you could open this up and give it a little bit more range of motion, but the way this closes, it's mostly just a swivel at this point, even though there is clearly a ball in there. Waist swivel, again, everything from the waist down, there's some detailing differences, but it's the same articulation we've gotten on, like I said, all the primes since Siege. It's, dual hinge hips, thigh swivel, hinge knee to a little past 90 degrees, ankle tilt, toes and heels all work because they're the same things. Now you can actually open up his chest. This upper panel will open, and there's a matrix in there. The matrix is removable. It doesn't. I don't think it's the same matrix. Actually, you know what? I think he's got right down here. I'll see what I can find. Come on, you. It will pop out. It's a little difficult to do. Let's see if we can get prop right out with the sword. There we go. It's a little flatter than the previous matrices, and hollow on the back side. I say, is that the same one? I don't think it's the same one. But anyway, you can put that in his chest. Go ahead and give him his sword over here, just because I don't like that weird combination weapon. Anyway, there is Laser Optimus Prime with his trailer. And again, G2 Prime, real quick, here he is with his previous counterpart, his G1 self. And you can see a smidge taller at the head, just a smidge taller at the head, roughly the same size. Obviously, Laser Prime is a little bulkier because of those shoulder pads and some of the detailing, but comparable in size to his previous self. Actually, does he have a matrix in him? I think he does. I was going to dig up Hot Rod, but come here, Matrix. There we go. Yeah, it's a little thicker. This one is still hollow on the inside, but you can see this one is not as... Okay, come on. Come on out. Pop this out again. Come on out of there. There we go, just fling it. Yeah, so it's a little smaller overall in size. It's got a little bit more of an actual matrix shape though. Like this matrix, I mean they're both matrix shaped, but this one's more of a has a wider matrix, whereas this feels, I think, is a little bit stubbier, but has the proper shape, although it is, as you can see, a little smaller and a little flatter overall than the ones that previously came with the War for Cybertron figures. Whatever. Take your sword back. Put it in the right way. Nope. There we go. And again, like I said, he's G2. And if you got G2 Prime, you got to show him off with the recent G2 Megatron they did. Even though, like, head-wise, if you look at the size of their noggins next to each other, a little out of scale, but they work. Although, like I said, I do hope, if we're getting this laser prime here, I really would like a G2 Megatron that is proper. Like, I don't need this little thing. I would really like him to have his proper shoulder cannon. He's close, and I like him. He was kind of just sitting in a box for a long time. I dug him out because of this guy. And now that I have Laser Prime, he'll probably stay out a little bit more as a display with him. I like him. I mean, I always like G2 Megatron. I like this one more now that I actually have a Laser Prime to go with it. But I still hope we'd get a Megatron with the proper shoulder cannon there, because I really liked that look on Megatron back in the day. Anyway, there is Laser Optimus Prime from the new Transformers Legacy line. He's a leader class, showing up in Targets now. So far, I've seen him and Galvatron. I've seen both the leaders. I have, just the other day, I did finally see a Blaster out in the wild. I've seen a Blaster. I've seen, I think, 3 Bulkheads, and I've seen 1 Skids and 1 RC. I would very much like to find a drag strip kickback. I'll take or leave kickback, but I do at least want drag strip at some point. I don't have any plans right now to get Skids or RC, so if you're anxiously awaiting for my reviews on those, they probably aren't coming. It's not to say I won't maybe one day on a whim decide, they're Skids. I like Skids. I don't like Skids. I mean, I don't hate Skids. Sorry. I got nothing against Skids. He's not a main draw for me. But if you like him, great. I mean, anyway. Anyway, enough of that. There's G2 Laser Optimus Prime from Transformers Legacy. Here's his cool blueberry instruction manual. And we'll see you soon. I got upcoming videos include the Iron Factory Sea Spray, which I'm looking forward to. Masterpiece Skywarp, which I'm looking forward to. I finally got my hands on a Core Class Hot Rod on the way from Amazon. So yeah, there's a few Transformers heading this way that we will be checking out soon. Thanks for watching. Hope all is well. Sorry to anybody I freaked out with my tweet that went insanely viral the other day about this guy. Because I was just being stupid at work and it went crazy. Anyway, hope you all are well. Stay safe, have fun, enjoy your toys, and we'll see you soon.